Hello, everybody. Welcome back to On the Fringe. This is Dave without my $4 headset, and I'm here
Whoa.
with Gavin.
Hey.
And today we're going to be coming at you guys, and we're talking about some neighborly disputes. And you
Oh.
had two countries that formerly had quite close ties. Now they're about at loggerheads with each other. And at first guess, you might go, oh, we're talking about the US and Canada. No, no, no. Completely different part of the world, isn't it, Gavin?
It sure is. We're talking about the Gulf. So recently, ties between the states of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have significantly deteriorated, and in fact, resulted in an escalation of armed conflict, though not currently within the region. So, in the last couple of weeks, really, ties between Riyadh and Abu Dhabi have gotten pretty darn bad. And it is, on the surface, somewhat unclear as to what the issue is. Now, all of this started a couple of months ago with a disagreement about the trajectory of another neighboring country, the country of Yemen. Now, Yemen has been in a civil war situation for a long time. And in 2015, there was a joint Saudi-Yemeni intervention against the government that currently runs most of the country. And it was not particularly successful, to put it mildly. There was a dispute this year because the force that was primarily backed by the Emiratis was actually in control of most of the territory. And Riyadh objected to this. The Yemeni government in exile is based in Riyadh. It's the capital of Saudi Arabia. And the Saudis said, no, 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 these people are going to be running this territory. We will not accept that this group of people gets to dictate the direction of Yemen. And they began bombing they began bombing those people and threatening to bomb Emirati security personnel that were in the country. The Emiratis left, and I think initially there was a view that that might be the end of that particular disagreement. And oh boy, it was not.
No. And to jump in here real quick, too. So while the Emiratis were in southern Yemen, the Saudis
Hmm.
brought to light that the Emiratis were committing potential human rights violations. And this is something that, if you've followed what's gone on in the Middle East over the last few years, human rights violations have come up from time to time, and particular
Well,
countries have been accused of human rights violations. And well, the Saudis are accusing the Yemenis of human rights violations. And well, they see the Emiratis largely as a junior partner in the relationship, and that the Saudis should probably be calling them out for making grave mistakes that they did.
it's also worth noting that neither of these countries, and I'm not talking out of school here, neither of these countries have freedom of press. So when things are being said in the media, it's because they were approved. Someone somewhere said, yes, you can say this. In both countries, but definitely in Saudi Arabia, there has been a massive uptick in a very short period of time in anti-Emirati sentiment. And this has also been going on in the Emirates as well, but it's really ramped up in Saudi Arabia, again, in a pretty short period of time. So, yeah, again, you would think, okay, this was focused on Yemen. By the way, now this is spilling over into other arenas as well, particularly in the Horn of Africa, where Saudi Arabia, either explicitly or implicitly, seems to be making moves to back forces directly opposed to forces allied with UAE. In Sudan, information has come out in the last couple of weeks that suggests Saudi funding is supporting a drone base along the border with Sudan and Egypt that is attacking RSF forces. RSF has been innumerably linked with the UAE. They're getting funding, they're getting military support from them. So that's come out. The other thing that's come out, there has been historical Emirati support for the government of Somaliland, which is an unrecognized country in the internationally recognized state of Somalia. In the last couple of weeks, there has been significant Saudi diplomatic, financial, and military support for the Somalian central government. So all of this stuff is going on. On top of this, I think very alarmingly for the Emiratis, the Saudis are trying to formalize a defense pact between them, Pakistan, and Turkey. Pakistan and Turkey, it's worth noting, are major military powers that vastly overshadow anyone in the Gulf.
And you were saying also that they're helpful to Saudi Arabia, correct?
Extremely, extremely. And do you want to, because you know about this as well, do you want to elaborate as to why?
Yeah, so sounds like that the Saudis have a critical shortage of officers and they have a critical shortage of military personnel. And where are they going to get those personnel? They can't get them from within Saudi Arabia, from neighboring countries. So Egypt, Turkey, and Pakistan.
And this is an issue that every Gulf country has had. They've all dealt with it in slightly different ways, but there is still definitely in Saudi Arabia a critical manpower shortage when it comes to their military forces. And, they've had alliances, but they're moving this to a more formal stage of commitment where if they are attacked, they will be able to call on Pakistani military personnel or Turkish military personnel. And I think there are already concerns. There are already very serious concerns. I mean, they're Pakistani officers serving in the Royal Saudi Armed Forces, but they're very serious concerns on the Emiratis' part that the sort of use of Turkish military and Pakistani military personnel as proxy forces is already in full effect. Not that they haven't done similar things, because they're doing similar things, Colombian mercenaries in Sudan. But this is, I think, a little bit of an unexpected escalation from their point of view.
Yeah,
And there are serious concerns.
and the mutual defense as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because again, it's a little awkward because all of these countries, I mean, well, not all of these, Saudi and UAE are all in the GCC,
Hmm.
which is supposed to be a mutual defense organization as well. That organization may not be worth very much, and yeah, it's a situation of extreme interest, and I think were global norms still in effect, I think there would be a lot of concern and a lot of diplomacy going on about this right now. As things are, this is not getting a lot of press.
No, and
And it
it
should be.
well, it should be, and it may not be because well, it may be embarrassing and it may be challenging for the Saudis.
It is. Yes.
Is
It
one hunch that I have. This
I,
is
I
not
think it's a good one.
this is not an easy truth for them to handle.
Mm.
Where, and this is not coming from me, this is coming from the Stimson Center. So I have a quote for you guys, and I'm going to bring it up really quickly. So this came out last year, and the Stimson Center is saying that the UAE is now the regional leader for the defense sector in the Middle East, that they have very highly capable air defense missiles, and they've surpassed Egypt. And, well, they're now the big dog in the Middle East. Little UAE is now militarily more powerful than Saudi Arabia. And, well, Saudi Arabia is behind the UAE when in fact the Saudis have kind of seen themselves as being the big dog in the neighborhood. They've lost that in the last 10 to 15 years.
And this is, I think not a reality that they're willing to accept. And this is the situation we now have, where I think the Emirates is very comfortable being the big dog, or not even being the big dog, but being an independent actor.
Mm-hmm.
They get to sail their own ship. I don't think Riyadh is comfortable with that. I don't think they like that. Also, not just militarily, but economically, and I would even say culturally, the UAE is a country that has been punching above its weight. And
Mm-hmm.
Saudi, in some ways, not so much, but in some ways, it has struggled to emulate the UAE. And I think there has been, I don't think this came out of nowhere. I think there has been a great deal of resentment about that, and not just in the upper echelons, as it were. But I think there's a great deal of resentment that the UAE has sort of enjoyed the success, and Saudi Arabia has been a little bit left behind. And
Yeah.
I think this is what we're seeing now is a concerted effort to bring them back into line. From Riyadh's
Yep.
perspective, they are going to cut them down to size because a situation or a development where all of a sudden Dubai or Abu Dhabi is dictating terms, that is not something they can live with.
No.
And that's why. So, an interesting contrast here. This is not the first time, it's definitely not the first time there has been an inter-Gulf dispute or inter-dispute among the GCC members. There was a rift in 2017, basically between the Qataris, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Mostly Saudi Arabia and Qatar, but the
This
UAE
is
was
when they
involved as
threatened
well.
to make Qatar an island, right?
Yep. Yeah, you remember it.
Yep, I remember this.
So that happened. That went on. Now, people forget there was essentially a blockade for 4 years. They really were cut off for quite a while. And it was not, I mean, it was not a, ooh, look at the neighbors having a tiff. Someone went to the HOA. Like it was a major confrontation. You have the American base there, but you also had 7,000 Turkish troops moved into Qatar, essentially to stop the Saudis from moving in. It was a tense situation. Now, the interesting thing there, it is a contrast to what's going on now, is in that situation, when that happened, and Qatar was sort of ostracized within the GCC, and the GCC, by the way, it's Saudi, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Oman. When that happened, Saudi and the UAE, who again were working together like they did in Yemen, they came up with a list of demands. I mean, there was literally a list of demands. You need to do X, Y, Z. Now, were all of those demands met? No. Were some of them the basis of the agreement that was met in 2021? Absolutely. Because the Qataris knew what the baseline was. They knew what they had to work with. That is just not the case here. There is no manifesto, there's no charter, there's no list of demands. There's, been no communication from top leadership on either side explicitly addressing this issue. This is sort of a vibes-based conflict, which is kind of the concern because it's difficult to tell, one, what is the end game, really? Two, what are the red lines? And I think that's where this becomes a conflict of concern. Because if there's a spiraling out, it doesn't just involve the Gulf. It involves all of the regions around the Gulf, which include South Asia, which include the rest of the Middle East, which include really Europe, because you go right up to Turkey, and a big chunk of Africa. So this is, yes.
You can't forget as well, Gavin, it includes the U.S. as well.
It does. And thank you for mentioning that.
The U.S. is allied with both. And so far, the U.S. has not come out and made a public statement about this tiff going on. But you better believe, I would believe, there are things going on behind the scenes where the U.S. does not want this to fall apart.
No. I mean,
and I would imagine that other countries as well, probably the Russians, probably the Chinese, probably the UK, and the EU as well.
Well,
don't want this relationship to completely fall apart.
I was going to say, I am pretty darn sure these two countries are founding members of the Board of Peace. And
they are.
Gee whiz, this wouldn't be a good look.
No, or it could be. It could be a good look if the Board of Peace is actually able to hold the peace, potentially.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Anyways, we're going to be here telling you what goes on with this big old tiff in the Gulf and where we go from here, because nobody really knows. We don't know. Dave doesn't know. I don't know. But we're going to see. We're going to find out.
You need a new Ouija board, Gavin.
I need to go back to the Ouija. Back to the Ouija, you need to throw a few tarot cards, throw some oracle bones around, start reading the tea leaves, see what happens. In the meantime, guys, we'd love it if you'd like, comment, or subscribe. That'd be awesome. We'd appreciate that. If you enjoyed this story and would like to hear stories like it, please get in touch. On the other hand, if you don't, also get in touch. That'd be nice. So, thank you for being on The French. I'm Gavin. Here's Dave.
And I'm hitting the button.
Hit the button.